biggest franchise on Earth. Now it's a joke upon gaming. Yes, Sword and Shield sold 18 million copies. But if you look at the sales of the Pokemon games by franchise, okay, by sales numbers for every generation since Generation 1, which still Generation 1 is still the best selling, here, like they're boasting, Pokemon Sword and Shield are the best selling games in Sword and Silver because of how great they are according to the Pokemon fandom. And that's the problem with the Pokemon fandom as a whole. They'll accept any piece of crap and call it a masterpiece. Okay? But we will go over Pokemon Zen by sales. Here, and here is the no remakes generation. This is excluding remakes as a whole. And guess what Gen 8 rise in the Pokemon sales? I bet the sales are probably around 20 million. That is still worse than Gen 3, excluding its remakes, Gen 1 excluding the Let's Go and Fire and Leaf Green, Gen 2 excluding the Heart Gold and Soul Silver as well. Or else those generations will have an advantage over the others because they're the only ones that had remakes. Gen 6, of course, is considered the worst generation and has the lowest selling of them all. And yes, I bet the DLC probably boosted sales a bit. And yet, but again, most of the Pokemon sales do come from the holidays as well. And yet, this is a completely horrible sales for Pokemon. Gen 8 is not selling as well as people think it is. As well, maybe it'll probably end up selling between 3 and 5. Wouldn't be surprised at the end. Possibly even outselling 7. Because all the Poke drones are saying how great Sword and Shield is. Essentially, saying they're amazing games, even though they're basically the same game that Game Freak has been giving us for the past years. But then, this is the new egregious one. The Pokemon Beta has released. The Pokemon Sword and Shield Beta, specifically. And guess what is? Now it has been confirmed for a fact that all of the Pokemon were intended to be in the game. Yes, all of the Pokemon were intended to be in the game. Of course, now the major PokeTubers are going to talk about this because they'll say, oh, it's just a beta, nothing really matters. But you see prominent Pokemon that are still not in Pokemon Sword and Shield, like Greninja, in the game, fully playable. Yes, Greninja is in the beta of Sword and Shield, but is not in the game. Meaning that Game Freak is essentially walking popular Pokemon behind Pokemon Home, the remaining Pokemon that are not integrated with the DLC behind Pokemon Home. This is such a scummy tactic that is even something just as bad as EA would do, okay? Here. Okay, just the title screen, no copyright symbol. Game Freak to stop putting the logo on the copyright screen of X and Y as well. Wrong font, also redundant. So it doesn't have a stop button, not even in 16:9 aspect ratio. Like, some Pokemon appealing is regularly called the Blastoise Arceus Moltres. Even though it's confirmed that the putting Pokemon in mechanic to create many sense is wrong. But Pokemon Sword and Shield, these Pokemon were all intended to go in Sword and Shield. And again, the Game Freak defenders, mostly PokeTubers, will go and say, oh, but they're the best. But the fact that we're going to have Pokemon that are basically, that were intended to be very popular Pokemon indeed, that were intended to be in the game, locked behind free paywalls, and actually the other Pokemon are putting a free update, but when you first follow the DLCs, we all probably thought, hey, if you can't get these Pokemon unless you pay $60 for 2 freaking DLCs that are completely garbage, that don't really add much to the game. Like, for example, Crown Tundra, they had one of the ugliest designs in history called Calyrex. Just as bad as, again, the Pokemon community is like, oh my god, Calyrex is such a great Pokemon, it's such an amazing design. No, it isn't, and yet we have Pokemon Sword and Shield. We have a lot of Pokemon that were cut. Ekans, Arbok, Greninja, Heo. Megas were intended to be in the original game. as well. A lot of Pokemon that were cut from the original game as well are in the game. Were supposed to be in the game. Which just shows that Game Freak cut out Pokemon on purpose to repackage them as DLC. But of course, the Game Freak drones and all those drones who are for Pokemon Sword and Shield will still say how great Pokemon Sword and Shield is and call it such a masterpiece. Because they will never understand what a true Pokemon. Oh, they do, but they'll seep and they'll follow the cash that Game Freak gives them. They'll follow the money that Game Freak gives them, and that's why they're called Poketubers, because they are sales to Game Freak, and they always have and always will be. Some of some of these people did move on to other franchises, such as Digimon and other RPG franchises, but most of the major ones stuck with Pokemon. Of course, many YouTubers switched to, Dell, but Sword and Shield's beta, of course, has bad graphics, even worse than the actual graphics here. This is the debug menu of Sword and Shield. You have megas and literally in the game, and they're not in the final game. And Sword and Shield's graphics did not really improve much from here. Sword and Shield already had pretty bad graphics, and these graphics are just so horrible. Okay, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go on a tangent about Sword and Shield's graphics, because we know these graphics are not next gen graphics. They never will be, and they never were next gen graphics. We know for a fact that Game Freak rushed out the game for the holidays, and to make the most amount of money possible, and their plan worked, as all the Poketubers Seep and Sales defended this game until the end of time. But now let's go on to another platform, Twitch, which one of the most important games ever on history was Pokemon Red and Blue, where Twitch plays Pokemon. Well, let's see how Pokemon is doing now, the newest generation. Of course, Fire Red, Leaf Green have a lot of, there. And yes, Crown Tundra did just release today. So expect a player base boost because of Crown Tundra. But this is the player base. This is Sword and Shield on Twitch. Sword and Shield is below, so even at the lowest, below 2,000 viewers. Because no one wants to set for some food. So on Sword and Shield. Yes, the game sold 18 million copies. But sales do not translate to quality. Let's look at The Last of Us Part 2, for example. The Last of Us Part 2 sold 6 million copies according to a Sony player base. 6 million people bought the game, but doesn't mean the game is any better. Okay? And of course, that's one, thing that these people say, oh, the game sold well. It means it's good. Well, then PUBG must be good. Well, PUBG sucks. Okay? And that game sold over 100 million copies. The game sold around 100 million copies. There's some pretty bad games that sold pretty well. PUBG sold 30 million copies. PUBG is one example of a really horrible game outselling many classic games. Kinect Adventures, anything to Kinect is garbage. Anything to do with fitness or, stuff like that, complete garbage as well. Again, that's my opinion, but yeah, any games that have to do with exercise. I want to play my games, I play video games. But again, those games appeal towards the grandmas and the grandpas who want to get into Nintendo and stuff. And that was their way of selling that stuff. And of course, FIFA 18 is another really bad game here, because FIFA completely sucks. It's the same game every year, but dummies still buy the games anyways. And yeah, we have sales here for a lot of games. Surprisingly, Overwatch is not here. So even though according to that, the player count is like 50 million people, which is pretty large for a game, but they had screwed that game from the list. And yeah, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, that's the new one. You have some games on here, and there's some pretty bad ones. Of course, we all know PUBG is up here. And the fact that Sword and Shield will be among the best-selling games in history, it will be a shame upon gaming history. The fact that Pokemon Sword and Shield could potentially outsell games like The Last of Us, also outsell way better games that have been considered masterpieces throughout. For example, The Last of Us. Sword and Shield is going to pass The Last of Us in sales. It will. PS3 and PS4 version. It will outsell the game. Of course, outsell the second game, but the second game completely sucks. Talk about the first game that everybody loved. Of course, it's not going to outsell Minecraft. There's not going to be even 200 million Switches in existence to make Sword and Shield past that number. Sword and Shield will probably die at around 20 million, 2 million copies. And yeah, that's what will be the fate of Sword and Shield. Yes, it will sell well, but doesn't mean it's a good game. FIFA is an example of a really garbage game selling pretty well. So the death of the Pokemon franchise, in my opinion, seems evident unless Game Freak at least listens to the fans at least a bit. But considering that Game Freak is more concerned with money than listening to fans, they'll continue rooting Pokemon until people finally wake up. Considering it's taking 9 years for people to finally wake up to how bad FIFA games are. Took them like 5 or 6 years for people to finally wake up to FIFA. It will probably take like a decade at most for Pokemon fans to finally wake up, especially the big PokeTubers, that the new Pokemon games suck and will never be as good as the ones that Game Freak poured their heart and soul into making. Like Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Pokemon Platinum, Pokemon Black and White, even X and Y have more soul than Sword and Shield. And it's lackluster graphics. I'm surprised that Gregor14Vids did not even make a video about Sword and Shield's graphics, because I know he hates games with bad graphics. And he will probably say it was the worst Pokemon game ever made. Well, it is the worst Pokemon game ever made, because I think most of the normal people who are not Game Freak sheep and are not little kids, which are probably the most people who bought the Pokemon Sword and Shield, because Pokemon's fan base is still mostly under the age of 15. Okay, that's probably and PokeTubers over the age of 25 who want that Game Freak money. But yep, that's basically it. Sword and Shield, the death of the Pokemon franchise is imminent. There is no way Pokemon can ever recover from this. So there we go. That is Pokemon Sword and Shield. No matter how many sites like Kotaku try to tell you how great Sword and Shield is, and IGN, Sword and Shield will never be as good as any of the other generations. For example, this list probably ranks Sword and Shield very high up the list. Yep, even higher than Black and White, too, which are considered by most Pokemon fans the best games in the franchise. Pokemon Black and White, still considered worse than anything in Gen 8. Gen 8, the worst Pokemon generation, is considered worse or better than where was Sword and Shield ranked on this list? Yeah, this is why nobody trusts the critics, The fact is, Sword and Shield is considered the 4th out of 5 best games in the series. It does prove that Pokemon as a series is dying. At least they ranked Heart Gold and Soul Silver at 1 instead of Pokemon Sword and Shield. But the fact that they have Pokemon Sword and Shield ranked so highly, it's proof that the Pokemon franchise is dying. I know that's their opinion, but Pokemon fan base is just be a irrelevant franchise. Pokemon sales for game by game is declining. The only time it went up was in Gen 7, and that was because it got the Ultra remakes. And they're in Pokemon Go, and I think Pokemon Go did have some impact on Sun and Moon's sales. But Pokemon games have been declining in sales ever since Gen 2. Gen 3 sold pretty horribly, is still considered the third worst selling generation. Of course, excluding with remakes as well. And then Gen 4 did better than Gen 3. Gen 5 did worse than Gen 4. And Gen 6 was the lowest sales for Pokemon as well. Because it never got... But again, Gen 7 never got... But Gen 6 was kind of robbed of its potential. There... And Game Freak just forgot about it. But that's basically it about Pokemon Sword and Shield. So, do you still think but the fact that Game Freak just lied to us is just absolutely horrible. That's basically it about this whole video. Goodbye.